Well, my favorite memory, I have so many after 40 years living in the Apex community of all the great people and the wonderful events we have and all that. But I'd have to say that my favorite memory is with great gratitude to the people of Apex who allowed me to be in a leadership position doing a very critical part of Apex's growth. I was elected to the town council in 1993 when we were barely 5,000 people, I believe, and then mayor for 5 terms beginning in 1995. And during that period, you can imagine what kind of change and growth and challenges there were on the Apex community. But the main thing I remember is the people allowing me to work with an unbelievably outstanding group of people on our town council at that time and the town leadership with the town managers. I worked with 2, Bill Sutton and Bruce Radford. I couldn't be better leaders during this time in Apex's history. So those are my favorite memories of being in that position because of the folks in Apex allowing me to do so, but allowing me to work with a great number of people. Well, my most important memory of my time in Apex and my being in the position was what was commonly called the EQ event. We had a warehouse, we didn't know at the time, but it was a hazardous chemical warehouse in our industrial park. Environmental Quality was the name of it. On Thursday, October the 5th, 2006, 2 of those chemicals somehow mixed and caused a huge explosion, blew the roof off that warehouse, and caused a toxic flume to cover a good bit of Apex, most of the Apex. What occurred after that, the town had to be evacuated. I think they said 2/3 of all the neighborhoods in Apex had to move out until the all clear was given. But the main thing about that was our citizens were reassured of the professional quality of our first responders. Fire Chief Mark Haraway and Jack Lewis, our police chief, couldn't have been any better. And our people were reassured that they were getting the right news through the media. We're covering this extensively. But I think our people were reassured that even for a small town in North Carolina, they were well protected by the professionalism of our police and fire and other first responders. But this was not only a local event. This was national coverage. It was covered all over the United States. I had somebody just tell me they were in a wedding in California, and they found out about that. And another friend was on a business trip to England, and he was sitting in the Heathrow airport and found out what was happening in his hometown. But I think one of the little tidbits of information that I found most interesting about that, the governor of Illinois was watching all this coverage on that. Of course, he would, emergency preparedness would be a big thing that he would be interested in. But through the town manager told me during that event, probably the day after it exploded, that the governor is going to send his of Illinois, going to send his emergency preparedness director down here because he was sitting there watching this on TV and said, how can this little town in North Carolina look so professional and well prepared for this, and they're dealing with it in a way? You go down there and find out how they do this. And I was thinking, yeah, when Bruce Radford told me that, I said, yeah, right, sure. The next day, a guy showed up with one of the jackets, Emergency Preparedness, State of Illinois on the back, and he was interviewing all of our people. I said, my goodness, this must be. And so the thing about that was, not only was I reassured, we had a command center that kept us informed. We had press conferences, every hour or two to report to the people around in Apex what was happening. And it was certainly a memorable event for me. What makes Apex home to me was that I remember back in 1987 when Shannon and I were both from North Carolina, both small town North Carolina, born and raised. We lived outside the state for a period of time doing other things, and we came back to North Carolina and we looked around. We had the opportunity to look around for a town, a place to live, to raise our young children, that was small town environment, just like we knew when we were growing up. And we had opportunities in this area to look around. We looked around quite a bit. But we wanted a small community that was family oriented, where people valued the traditional values of a southern town, southern values that were faith-based. And we found that in Apex. And we're so glad we did. And I think many of those attributes are still here in Apex, still family-oriented town, and I believe that's the most important part of what I consider Apex home. I think it hinges on our people continuing to promote leaders with traditional values, and that the main thing must be family-oriented. Families with small children particularly need to be able to to have an environment promoted by the leadership in town and community leaders with civic clubs and all that nurture our children and bring them up with traditional values, and that believe that they can be all they can be through ambition and hard work. And that community spirit is what will be the future of Apex, and I pray it will continue to be. Well, I remember in 1993, 94, a newly elected town council person. If you can visualize Salem Street, which everybody talks about as our #1 key thing, and I'll give you a little tidbit of information I heard in the last couple of years. A local real estate agent said that her main thing when she brings somebody from out of town to look at Apex, looking for a new residence, first thing she does is take them to the top of the hill beside the Apex Baptist Church and has them walk down the street and said, "I'll pick you up at the end of the street in 30 minutes or so just take your time." She said, as soon as those people get down and get back in my car, they said, "Show us a house, we're sold." So but in 1993, it wasn't like that. There were canvas awnings over most of the shops. There were some industrial shops down there. There was an upholstery shop where the Peak City Grill is now. There are 2 hardware stores down there, quite a bit different. Telephone poles with telephone electric wire overhead. It just didn't look the same. No sidewalks much to think of. But when I was elected, I found out that David Rowland, our great director of planning at that time, who helped guide this town through much of the modern features you see now in the neighborhoods, had a plan on the books that would redesign, revitalize the downtown section of Apex, the Salem Street area of Apex. Well, it couldn't get any traction. People at the time liked what they were used to, and they just didn't want to have any, be able to deal with anything that new and different would be a better word. But I found it exciting. I found it something we should do. Well, Salem Street at the time, and many people don't know that, but Salem Street was old US 1, where the snowbirds from New York and New Jersey would come to Florida every year. They had to come downtown through Salem Street, which was US Highway #1. They all had to come that way. Well, over a period of years, the street had been resurfaced so many times there was a pronounced hump in that downtown section, where if you opened a car door on the side of the street, it actually hit the sidewalk. So at the time, it was thought, well, we'll just get DOT, put enough money in an appropriations bill to grind that hump down and resurface it, and we'll be good. But I thought, goodness sakes, we've got this great plan on board. Wouldn't that be because you've got to shut everything down while this work is being done anyway. Why not get 2 for the price of 1, basically, and let's do something different. Take the telephone poles down, redesign the downtown stretch, and provide some incentive money to the merchants down there to take the awnings down and do some fix up. Well, at first that didn't to the people that just wanted to do the plain didn't, but I talked to the council people, and before we were finished, it was a unanimous 5 vote to pick up the new plan, to do the whole thing, We did have to shut downtown. They couldn't park in those for a number of weeks while they do all this work. But now what you see now is the result of that work that I'm very proud of, and the folks that helped me with that.